A U.S. Army veteran renowned for his charitable work throughout Maine received a pair of prestigious honors from the Maine Association of Police.
Travis Mills and his wife, Kelsey, opened the Travis Mills Foundation Veterans Retreat in Rome in 2017. The nonprofit provides post-9/11 veterans injured in active duty, their families, and law enforcement with adaptive activities.
Mills lost portions of both his arms and legs in an IED explosion in Afghanistan. He recently received the William B. Trobe Leadership Award, one of the association's top honors, for his work with recalibrated veterans. Mills was named an honorary lifetime member of the Association of Police and received a badge. And we'll have sound from this presentation later tonight.